Okay, lots of backups play at quarterback. A few teams remind us that, hey, the running game is still important in gridiron football. Things spread out in the West, standings even out a bit in the East. All that and more on the Rouge, White, and Blue CFL podcast. Hello and welcome to the Rouge, White, and Blue CFL podcast. My name is Oz Davis. I'm the host of the show. And joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, my friend Joe Pritchard. Mr. Pritchard, how are you this week?
I tried with all the quarterbacks going down in the league, I had to go out in the backyard and throw the football around a little bit just to remind myself that yes, this is kind of a hard thing to do.
uh,
Kind
I
of
thought that you
burn
were.
me out, wipe me out. I'm sure I look
Uh-huh.
great today.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking you were looking for a tryout.
No, trust me. If they're resorting to me, they might as well fold the league.
Uh, oh, don't say it. Don't say it. I still remember 2020. Um, okay, so, right, I think that's got to be the theme this week was the number 2 quarterback play around the league. Happy belated Canada Day, I should say, to our Canadian friends out there.
Well, I
For
mean,
Canada.
actually, we're recording on the 30th, so by the time they listen to it, if they listen to it right away, it'll be the first. So might not even be belated.
Right? And the games that were advertised as the Canada Day weekend games all turned out to be blowouts. 4 games, 4 blowouts, lots of backup quarterbacks, lots of shaky play. However, we started the week with the one game in which both starting quarterbacks played. Both rosters were mainly full, not too many outstanding injuries. Nevertheless, final score Winnipeg Blue Bombers 36, Edmonton Elks 23. Joe, I got to tell you, your Bombers looked amazing again. Zach
Oh,
Collaros was Fantasy Player of the Week. Did you have him?
I did, and
Uh-huh.
nobody else. So
Not even Nick Dembski.
no, of course not.
Ah, because
Actually, I try not to start Zach for a lot of reasons, but mostly it's because I don't want to be a homer, right? And he's
really.
usually very expensive. And the
Yes.
times I do start him, it's the weeks that Brady takes over, things like that, right? But this week he was the only play that made any sense to me,
Yep.
and it
Yeah.
worked out really well. Problem is, like nothing else I did worked. So
Well, a lot of this stuff was pretty unpredictable this week. I think about the only other player you could have safely called at the beginning of the week and been happy with at the end of the week was AJ Ouellette over there in Saskatchewan. But Zach really, really killed it this week. And if you played, I was going to talk about this. If you played Zach Collaros with Nick Dembski, which I like to do to, connect your quarterback to your wide receiver, you won the league this week. I mean, Collaros, 2 touchdowns to Dembski, another one to Wheatfall, who's just having a monster season as well. Ran in a 4th touchdown himself. I think the TSN guy said that this was only the 4th rushing touchdown of his career. Had to have been one of the first he's ever scored for Winnipeg.
might have been the first.
Yeah, I think it has to be first, or I can't recall if he had one maybe in 21, but certainly not the past few years. I mean, the man never runs the ball, so just a monster game by Collaros. Um, Ended the first half on an 11 of 11 run, which actually brings up a question for me. At any point, were you concerned that the Bombers would throw this game away?
When the offense took a nap in the third quarter like they usually do, yeah. I mean, I wasn't ever like, oh my God, Edmonton's going to win this game, but it was like, okay, let's get this back going. I know what we can do in the fourth, but do we have to wait till the fourth?
Mhm.
Fine, we'll wait till the fourth. And then they did what they do in the fourth. So, I mean, it's the same pattern they've had for 2.5 years. Like, why differ from it now, right?
Yeah, the luxury of being a Bomber fan.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Zach ends the second half, ends the first half going 11 of 11, but started the second half with three consecutive 2 and outs. No matter the defense again, who has a picture of bend don't break. Um, Only managed one turnover in this game, which is kind of wild because it's not like the Edmonton offense was awesome this week. Only managed
And
one turnover
they
in
did have two taken away for one for good reason, one for ghosts, I guess.
nicely said.
That one
Nicely
being
said.
the accidental pass interference where the receiver tripped over the yard line,
Right,
I guess.
right.
I guess they're blaming the yard line and calling it part of the team, I guess. So,
Yard line is part of the team. Uh, yeah, at one point, 23-23, but again, defense clamps down in the fourth quarter, shuts out the Elks. They even got to Trey Ford a couple of times. They only had 3 sacks in the game, 2 in the fourth quarter. So really took over this game, shut down the Elks running game, which had looked good in early games this week.
and did a good job of containing Trey Ford so he wasn't running all over the field, too, right?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm glad. I mean, we had to get to Trey Ford eventually, but last week you were talking about this, just this distressingly conservative game plan when you've got a very innovative quarterback there. A couple of times, Ford was flushed out of the pocket and forced to improvise a little bit. Too little success. And I'm wondering. I mean, is this? I mean, this must have been what you saw as well, right? Trey is not a traditional drop back passer, and yet that's what the Elks game plan is calling for. And now they're 0-4.
But to be honest, he played the part and he played it well.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't his fault receivers were dropping wide open passes
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. The drops hurt.
just getting no help from his defense or the line started to collapse on him, things like that. Just like this Trey put up good numbers. He played well. The numbers would have been a lot more outstanding. Had a couple of mishaps not happened. I mean, there is a path to winning this game for Edmonton that involved not screwing up. But I mean, that's the theme of the week for me. The teams that lost
Mm-hmm.
handed the teams that won multiple points over and over and over again. And that's why they lost. I mean, it's just that simple. This week was the week of either the turnover or the botched
Mm-hmm.
special teams play or dropping wide open passes in the end zone or what have you. It was preseason week 6,
Mm-hmm.
which is slightly distressing when you're thinking about the level of play in the league right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, again, they're putting a lot of this onto the backup quarterbacks. At least I am. Jesus. Um, anyway, speaking of backup quarterbacks, who would have figured that Cody Fajardo just might lead the league in rushing touchdowns this year? I'm looking at the numbers. He's one of 4 guys with 3 or more touchdowns, right up there with AJ Ouellette, again, who had a monster
Mhm.
game.
And
Uh,
veteran savvy too, because he was stopped on that try
yeah,
that he scored on, and had the presence of mind to stick the arms out just long enough to get it
yeah,
over.
yeah. That was nice. I was wondering if that was going to go, but yes, on the replay they did allow that. So very nice looking touchdown there. 3 TDs for the season this year, thus far. Okay, All right. So that was the one kind of normal game this past week. Game two. Hamilton Tiger Cats 35, Montreal Alouettes 17. Now, I'm tempted to make a couple of comments here. One is last week I bragged about how well I had been doing in Pick'em. Bad news, man. Bad news. Totally jinxed myself. Totally. I shouldn't say jinxed myself because I don't believe in the jinx, but I woke up to the fact that I had been doing well. Death, right? So this
Mhm.
week I couldn't pick my nose, as they say. I was also tempted to start off the analysis with the classic cliche, well, the wheels came off. But to be honest, for the Alouettes, the wheels were never on in this game. McLeod Bethel Thompson, quarterback, looked pretty nice going 6 for 6 last week to start. But in this game, the Alouettes didn't score a touchdown until 4 minutes left in the game. Which was directly followed on the next drive by MBT fumbling in the end zone. And easy 6 points for it. Talk about handing points. Oh my God,
Mhm.
this game was in reach, despite the fact that our offense was nothing this week. Nothing. Um,
Yeah, you could
absolutely.
draw a direct correlation from the points left on the field or the points handed over to the margin of victory. All of these games this week had large margins at
Yeah.
the end, but you take away 2, 3 plays in each game, and it's a dead even game. So I'm not sitting here going, these were all blowouts. No, one team made the play that they had to make, and the other team didn't.
Mhm. Right, right, right. Because you're looking at the offensive statistics for some of these games, and it's just like nobody is no there were no fireworks on offense this week, except for in that Winnipeg game. The Winnipeg offense, of course, looked great. Uh, the Riders had some nice plays on offense as well, but most of these games, you're enslaved to the number two quarterback and just yeah. But I mean, and you could see it in this Montreal game. I mean, what is this? They had 4 attempts by running backs, 4 rushing attempts in
4.
this game. Yeah. And I think, by proper running backs, and I think they had maybe like 6 yards out of those attempts. I mean, just brutal. Just brutal. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. You know what this game was? This was a great argument for Davis Alexander for MOP. That's what this game was because this Alouettes team in all aspects of the offense looked completely different from
Mhm.
the first 3 weeks of this season. And it's just terrible to see for Alouettes fans. I guess we can't win them all, unfortunately. On the other side, I guess we have to offer congratulations to Bo Levy Mitchell, who got his 100th win as a starting quarterback. That's the fastest ever in CFL history. I was really hoping that the Alouettes wouldn't end up as a trivia question, but there you have it. Basically, and as Joe was saying, basically, I feel like again, this was not a big fireworks game, depending on the mistakes. I mean, basically, Hamilton did enough not to lose. I mean, again, you're looking at the numbers fantasy wise. I mean, Tim White had a decent game, 9 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown, but just not a lot here for the Ticats. Yes, they've tightened things up in the East. Yes, they got their first win of the season. They're down there with Ottawa and Toronto with 1 win apiece. Um, but Joe, on the whole, I just like it better when the Alouettes win.
Oh, I don't blame you at all. And that was an ugly one from an
Ugh,
Alouettes fan perspective.
yeah,
That's one of those games that you were hoping your team could win with a backup quarterback. I mean, given that all we've talked about this season so far, it feels like it's backup quarterbacks. I bring this up every week. I want my backup to be able to go 2-2 in the month my starter's gone.
right.
I figure if the starter's gone for more than a month, maybe 6 weeks, given you have an 18 game season, what
Yeah,
have you. Sure, but like anything more than that, and you can toss the season down the toilet right then and there, right? Um, but this is one of those that you needed to have from your backup if your starter is going to be out for any sort any length of time, and he didn't get and MBT should be one of the backups that you'd be able to rely on to
Well, yeah,
nursemaid you through a game like that.
yeah.
But he's the one making the critical mistakes, and that you can't have. You just
Right,
can't.
and again, like this offense disappeared this week, and I
And you're even okay with the offense, sputtering a bit, but you can't give Hamilton a ton of points when you're on the road already.
right, right. You have to score on offense. Whoever gets the most points is going to win the game, right? So,
Well, yeah,
that was a
but
bit of a
don't
slog.
hand them 14.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about this with a friend recently. It's like, look, okay, there's 18 games in the season, and you sit there and there's 9 teams, right? And you sit there and you look at these teams through the first 3-4 weeks, and you say, Edmonton and Hamilton aren't going to win a game except against each other, but that's not the way it works. I mean, you're a baseball guy. In baseball, there's 162 games. You're playing these teams multiple times. You're going to have upsets. The Rockies are going to win some games. The Athletics are going to win some games. And that was one of these. It's just like, let's just hope we're not regretting this at the end of the season. However, it's not like I saw a lot out of Hamilton that makes me think that they're super competitive. Same thing happened in Toronto. I feel like, okay, so great, they won the game and whatever. But it's not like I saw a lot that causes me to fear the Tiger Cats going forward here. But, a win's a win. So good for Hamilton. They're on the board. They got their first win of the season. Bo Levy, 100 wins as starting quarterback. Great. Good for them. Good for them. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about that anymore. All right. So now, Saskatchewan Roughriders 37. Oh, those poor BC Lions 18. Man, the Riders are looking good, Joe. Riders are looking good. Averaging 34 points a game. The offensive line looks great. The defense looks great. Special teams are just fantastic. Just nice, consistent run backs all year. The Riders are even managing to avoid those stupid penalties, at least for 3.5 quarters in these games, until inevitably at the end of the game, we have some unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Um, but I like this showing by the Riders because hey, they reminded us that the running game still counts. Here was a game with backup quarterbacks. Jake Meyer is starting for the Riders at quarterback and ends up with fewer all-purpose yards than Derek Sluka in Toronto. 13 of 23, 170 yards, one touchdown. Not a hardly a monster game. On the other hand, AJ Olette just crushed it. Just crushed it. Just controlled the tempo of this game. 23 carries for 139 yards. Great game by him. One touchdown as well. Just crushed it. Was your only fantasy play at running back this week, basically. Um, I mean, okay, how much of this is early season riders stuff that we've seen they said that on the TSN broadcast, they said that they had gone to 4-0 for the second time in 2 seasons. So, in other words, back to back seasons at 4-0. But I feel like they've been doing this in every season since COVID. you know,
It
I
seems
mean,
like
like,
it, but there is a difference between
okay.
the Dickinson teams and the Mace teams. And
Mm-hmm,
this is the second year of Corey Mace. They
mm-hmm,
did have that slump that they had to fight out of last year,
mm-hmm,
where in years past that slump would have just carried on through the end of the year. They
mm-hmm.
found a way to fight out of it. We'll see if they have to deal with anything like that again. But they did manage this time around to act. They crafted a good game plan. They
Mhm.
didn't ask Jake Meyer to do too much. They put
Yeah.
the ball in AJ Ouellette's hands a lot,
Yep.
and they let their defense and special teams just do what they do. And yeah, that's exactly what they needed to do. It's what Montreal wanted to do in Hamilton, right?
Mhm.
You don't,
Yep.
except that they came out and said, Montreal came out and said, let's put the ball in the hands of our backup quarterback and let's see how that goes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Saskatchewan didn't do that. They
Mhm.
game planned
Mhm.
away from that. They game planned enough so that there was a threat at the pass to keep the run open,
Mhm.
but they didn't rely on the pass to be the only thing they did the whole game.
Right. Right, right, and just yeah, just top performances by the Riders all around. This is looking like a really nice team this year. I can't. I mean, you kind of expect the midseason swoon. We'll see if it happens, but I suspect that the Riders just might end up with the best record in the league this year.
It's
After all,
possible. Although I do
yeah,
hope that mid-season swoon does show up in late August, early September.
right.
No real reason for that, I assure you.
What's your record for being in the stands for those games anyway? For those Riders Bombers games. What's your career
I
record
mean,
now?
where am I at? Like if I'm in Winnipeg, Winnipeg's only lost the one,
Okay.
and that was Zach Collaros beating Matt Nichols.
Okay.
So I mean that goes that far back. Um,
Okay.
so I want to say just doing the math, if I'm remembering everything correctly, 5-1 in Banjo Bowls and 0-3 in Labor Days.
Right.
Because
Okay.
when I
That's
went to
pretty
Labor
good.
Days, that was in the middle of that long streak that Saskatchewan won that game every year for like
Yep.
15 years straight or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep. Yep. That was in the days of Joe Pritchard's cynicism. I, I, I remember well. Um,
Uh-huh. Well, I
so-
mean, when you have that kind of baptism into the CFL, it's like it takes a little bit to change that line of thinking. A
oh
couple
sure.
Grey Cups will do that for you, though.
Oh sure. Yeah. You're the New England Patriots fan, circa 1999. Um, okay, so on the other side of the ball, wow, you've got to be sad for the BC Lions. I mean, of course, the big key stat is the -8 turnover differential. Went into this
Mhm.
game at -4, came out -8. Riders just dominated on defense. They're now at a -29 point differential, and that includes a win. So to say that after 4 games, this team has an average outcome of a touchdown loss, wow. Uh, in this game, holy hell, 5 offsides penalties by the offensive line. I mean, you could chalk some of this up to the backup quarterback. Jeremiah Masoli played this game, did not have a good game whatsoever. But this thing about the offensive line being out of sorts, I mean, wasn't this the problem last year when Nathan Rourke rejoined this team? I mean,
Well, and then the year before, and the year
right.
before, and the year before, and the year before. I think maybe all the way back into to when we started doing this, we've always had comments to make about the BC offensive line, right?
Yeah, not a strength.
It's just
Not a
one of
strength.
those things that seems to just carry over. It doesn't matter who the personnel is, doesn't matter who the coach is. It's one of those things that just in this league that is just kind of calcified, and it's just that they're going to have problems there. I
I
mean, the
mean,
other problem. I mean, they have a lot of problems right now. Let's just face it.
oh,
um,
yeah. I mean, going into this season, reasons for optimism, but wow, I mean, just nothing looks good right now.
yeah,
Uh,
you could have convinced me, 14-4 or 4-14 either way.
right,
Like you could
right.
have put an argument out there, and I
100%.
would have at least considered it anywhere in
Mhm.
that range, right? Like,
Yeah, I
okay,
remember
we
you
get
saying that.
2022 Nathan Rourke for 18 games. Okay, fine. You convinced me they'll win this year.
Mhm,
We've seen what, a game and a half of Nathan Rourke and injuries. So
mhm. Yeah.
and a healthy Nathan Rourke would mask a lot of these problems, but they don't have that. The backup is a veteran that's very savvy and is, from the sounds of it, is basically a coach in the locker room, right? great to have, except for when you need to play him, right?
Mm.
I mean, we're and I hate to say it, but we're past the best by date on him too. Um,
Yep. Yep. Feels
and
like
you
it.
have a rookie coaching staff that's going to be asked to
Mhm.
go, okay, let's steady this ship.
Mhm.
I don't know if they know how to do that.
Yeah. 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 I mean, really, seriously, the only guy that had a decent game here was Matthew Betts. 2 sacks by him, 3 sacks in the game total for the Lions. Um, just not effective. And now, they're sitting there in fourth place. They're one of two teams in the West with a losing record. I mean, wow, just not a great start in BC. And I don't know if there's light at the end of the tunnel. Too bad. I mean, because here's a team that's leading the league in attendance this season in terms of fandom, and they really should be putting up better for their fans.
Yeah,
Um,
and their high water mark as a franchise in the last 10 years, and probably the last. I'm just making sure I got the math right. Last 10 years was probably 2023, one of the first weeks of the season where they just obliterated Winnipeg and Winnipeg.
oh
After
yeah,
that, it's been downhill ever since.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, they started off well in 2023. Vernon was looking pretty sharp there until the very strange decision to sub in Nathan Rourke um, last year. Okay, so finally, end up with Toronto Argonauts 29, Ottawa Red Black 16. 45 points in this game, but really you can bring it all down to 2 words, and those words were Derek Sluka. Just a couple of
I should have
incredible
picked him in
plays.
fantasy this week.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You just start Derek Sluka at quarterback, you would have done okay in fantasy this week. Combined 225 yards on a blocked kick recovery that looked like a Rouge and instead went for 120 yards the other way. Also, a bit earlier on defense, just ripping the ball away on a fumble, turning that into a 105-yarder. Just when it looked like Ottawa was going to put some points on the board. This week for Ottawa, Dustin Crum again was the starter. Who was not up for this? Last week I commented that he's a bit like the Ben Roethlisberger of the CFL. Really looked like it this week. Sacked 5 times, threw 1 interception. Just was not up for this game. Um, on the other hand, it's not like Toronto was full of fireworks. I mean, the team scored 3 touchdowns the whole game. Sluka's 2 touchdowns, and then the third was not quite a gadget play, but certainly pulling one from the back of the playbook, a 1 yard reception by offensive lineman Ryan Hunter. I mean, the running game was basically non-existent for this team. There were no huge plays at wide receiver. Nick Arbuckle, does enough not to lose. That's about it. Just really no fireworks here. But like I say, a W is a W. Toronto gets their first win of the season. But man, again, I feel like this is Hamilton all over again, where I'm not seeing a path to another win here. Let's see, who does Toronto get next week? Toronto gets Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, there you go. We're going to see which of these teams has weapons on offense, I think, next week, even with their backup quarterbacks in this game. I mean, what are your takeaways from this game? Because I feel like, yeah, again, this was all Sluka, and the rest of the game was just low watt.
I think Ottawa's got to be concerned about letting everything slip away here. They had a
Mm-hmm.
chance to take second place
Mm-hmm.
very clearly, and they let that opportunity slip through their fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they had a chance to hurt a division rival, didn't do it. Kind of feels like we've had this conversation before with them. They're just, I don't see a lot for optimism going forward
Yeah, it's
because their whole season hinged on Drew Brown being healthy,
yeah.
and they because they also refuse to. they've decided that Masters Shields isn't number two unless he's hurt and we're not being told. They've also decided Tyree Adams doesn't need to get a look. Even though he had the one look he had was a good look a few years ago, and then he had an injury, and then he just hung around. But apparently, what he's done is he's hung around isn't enough to put him over Dustin Crum, where we just continue to see the same things out of him over and over again. Either
Mhm.
like their only hope for this season is for Drew Brown to get healthy soon and stay healthy. But I haven't seen Drew Brown be able to be healthy for long stretches of time here.
Mhm.
It makes me think that they're one Drew Brown injury away from being where they were 2 years ago, which was nowhere.
Yeah, Drew Brown needs to come back again. Like him not being there is just affecting this entire offense. Yeah, here's Dustin Crum taking the 5 sacks. Most of those were because he was holding on to the ball too long. I mean, again, this offense is just falling apart. We saw the same thing in let's say BC, although I think BC has more problems. Same thing in Montreal. Again, it's that back you see, it's not just a question of he can't complete the passes, it's a question of everything is out of sync for these Red Blacks. And the Red Blacks are playing with, I feel like, not enough cards in the deck already, right? They don't need to be on a different page from the man who is their starting quarterback on a given week. The question of Schultz is a good one because I was wondering that myself. He was frankly terrible in the game that he played against Montreal. Um, I don't know about the injury thing though,
Well,
Joe.
in and of itself, his play against Montreal and him not playing since then
Mhm.
makes sense on the level of okay, he didn't perform the way we expected him to. Let's try the next guy.
Right.
Except that the next guy is a guy you've been trying for like 4 years to try to get the one he had the one big game against basically a one stretch of about 5 minutes at the end of a game
Right.
where he came alive and buried Winnipeg in Ottawa.
Right.
Ever since then, they've been trying to capture that again, and it's just not
Right.
happening.
Right.
Like at this point, they know what they have in him. They seem to think they know what they have in Matthew Schultz. What's the excuse for not playing Tyree Adams at this point?
Mhm.
What do you have to lose at this point?
Right. 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 Well, it's not over yet. I mean, losing these divisional games is a bear for them. I mean, I mean, we're 4 weeks into this thing, and we can already pretty much surmise that Ottawa won't be winning the East this year. At this point, I mean, Hamilton
We can
likes to
pretty
say for
much
the season.
surmise that nobody wants to win the East except for Montreal at this point. So
Right. Right. Well, yeah, things are tight at the bottom of the table there. We could have had some separation this week. Instead, the two teams that were supposed to win lost. And so now you've got three teams with losing records, one win each at the bottom of the table. The Owls still look like the class of the East despite this loss this week.
yeah,
Please come back, Lucas Alexander.
Hamilton's in second place
Uh-huh.
with a point differential of +1.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I mean, exactly how we have that all playing out, right?
Oh yeah, but we got more football to come. We've
Oh, we
got
have plenty
lots more
more.
football to come.
It's just Ottawa had a chance at the beginning
Yeah.
of the year with Toronto being down with injuries. And speaking of which, Chad Kelly is out until at least week 7 per Ryan Dinwiddie. They had a chance to get some separation to make Toronto claw back for it. Right now, Toronto's in a playoff spot at 1-3, believe it or not. And
Mhm,
Ottawa's not.
mhm, mhm,
They had just you can't let that kind of opportunity go, and they did. So
uh-huh, uh-huh. Calgary crosses over into the east.
Calgary's just in the
Imagine,
West right now.
imagine. Oh, I know,
They're
but
in the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah. If the playoffs started today, we'd all be really surprised.
Yes, exactly.
But but that's one of the least convincing 2-1 starts I've seen in the CFL for a long time. Calgary, of course, had the bye this week. Talk about next week's games in just a minute because Calgary opens the week. But first, I just wanted to say that indeed we talked about the flag football last week and got some results. What can I say except congratulations to the Canadian flag football team? The men's team won in the finals against the American team. Kudos to Paul LaPolice. Now he's back in the TSN studios after this. And the women's team came second. So good for Canadian flag football if you're into that kind of thing. And nice job by Mr. LaPolice. So I just wanted to get that in there. Again, there's a question as to whether flag football is really football or not, in my estimation. But something to watch in the Olympics, I think. I do love the Olympics. I do love the Olympics. So you can put just about any sport in there, and I'd probably watch it. Um, okay, so getting on to upcoming week's games. Like I say, we start off in Calgary, Winnipeg going to Calgary. Winnipeg is obviously the favorite here. Oh, yes, I have a line here. Ooh, boy. Wow. You ready for this line, Joe? What do you
Sure.
think? What do you think this is going to be?
10.5.
10 and a half, really? Okay, get this. Early line is three. Three.
Oof.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they have some
I
faith
don't
in
know.
Calgary then.
No, I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is here. Again, Calgary may be 2-1, but I'm not blown away. Whereas Winnipeg is still firing on all four cylinders. Who knows? I mean, maybe this is the upset of the week this week. I'm not sure what other upset I might go with this week. Got an interesting lineup actually, the interesting slate this week. But I don't know. I can't see this thing about the bye week. I really don't think it's dependable anymore. Um, Teams coming out of the bye week. I don't think you can make a generalization about this anymore. Dave Dickinson used to be the master of this out there in Calgary, but Calgary has not been Calgary for what 2, 3 seasons now. So I'm not sure what to make of this bye week. I would just simply toss it away for the sake of CFL Pick'em, for the sake of betting, if you want to bet on this game. And I'd take Winnipeg minus the 3.
Oh, yeah. Bad news for Calgary. Brady Oliveira, full participant in practice both Sunday and Monday,
Uh
so likely
huh.
going to be playing.
Wow.
Winnipeg does have a full week of rest too because they played last Thursday as well.
Right.
Nick Dembski also participated in full today, Monday, and he had been dealing with an ankle thing. So full participant in practice tells me that they're not all that concerned about that either at this point. Um, just taking a look at Calgary, nothing stands out as far as that goes. Although Damon Webb is been limited, but I mean, other than that, I don't see a whole lot of um, changes on that side either. Yeah, I Calgary's still in prove it mode for me. I mean,
Yeah.
they beat up on some of the Eastern teams off the hop, right? Hamilton has taken some time to get out of the gate. Toronto has too. They lost to Ottawa at home, so you know how we feel about Ottawa right now. So that's kind of one of those reasons I'm not even all that concerned about going into Calgary right now. Is
No.
if that's the last game you've played, it's not all that impressive to me.
No,
So
this is not. This is not scary. This is not scary for Winnipeg. Um, I'm not sure.
no, but Calgary. We'll find out who Calgary is in the next 3 weeks. They host Winnipeg. They're at
Yes.
Saskatchewan. They're at Winnipeg. Oh, and
Yes.
then they host Montreal too. So, like the next 4 weeks, we will find out if they are actually a contender or what we're thinking they're still a pretender yet.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't have much faith, but I should also say that wow, the schedule makers really screwed Winnipeg this season, huh? They got the bye week in week 5. They got the bye week in week 6. So
Yeah, 1-6 and then sometime later on. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
just it is what it is.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can't,
yeah.
you play the schedule you're given.
Yep. Oh yeah. They got the short end of the stick there, but yeah, looks to me like a CFL schedule. All right, but still, not a great position for Winnipeg to be in. I would suggest that Winnipeg probably. I don't know if they need this win, but they really, really, really should get this win with Saskatchewan on the break. So Saskatchewan will still be undefeated after week 5, regardless of the other results. All right. So now here we go in week 2. In week 2, in the second game, Jesus. All right. In the second game, Hamilton Tiger Cats at Toronto Argonauts. Wow. Wow. Okay. Here's one for the Pick'em crowd. Uh, Toronto, 1.5 point favorites because the book doesn't know what to do with this game. 1.5 point favorites at home against Hamilton. The book is basically saying Hamilton is the better team. Kind of skeptical about that assessment. Tell you what, Hamilton looks a lot more organized, if that counts for anything. Toronto, I feel like, is still trying to find their feet. Derek Sluka's career game aside. Um, 1.5 points. Wow. Over under 52.5. I would be surprised if we see this many points. I'm thinking that this is around a 21-18 game, but I got no idea who's going to win. I'll take whatever you don't take, Joe. What do
Okay.
you
Well,
like?
you're taking Toronto because
Really?
Hamilton is the team that has the ability to put up points, right? Like they do have some talent on offense.
Yeah.
They have a little bit of cohesion going on with their offense. They have players that have been around in that system. Toronto just seems like they still, even though they won against Ottawa, they did not look great. They made the big plays they had to make, but other than that, it was a slog. Um, so I don't see Toronto climbing out of that quite yet. If they do, I mean, the East had their chance to put them away when they had it when Toronto was down, but I don't see Toronto getting up quite yet. They haven't they just haven't come together at all. They're
Nope.
really hard to watch.
Yep. No, Toronto is the classic looks great on paper team. Classic looks great on paper. Nice roster, but just not gelling yet. Again, still have time. When you got 3 teams in the East with losing records, they still have time. But I can't help thinking not this week. And to me, I feel like Toronto has a long season ahead. If you're
Oh, they
saying
do.
that,
They
yeah,
do.
yeah, you're saying that they're not going to be good at quarterback until week 7. This always seems to take an adjustment period on top of that. So maybe they'll be coherent on offense by week 11 or 12.
Well,
Meanwhile,
they're hoping the old saw about the season starting on Labor Day actually
yeah,
applies this year, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But even then, they could come out of Labor Day 0-3 after that. So I don't mean to Schadenfreude this thing up too much, but hard to feel bad for the defending champions in that Eastern Division out there. Um, okay, so I mean, for me, that one's a coin flip, but Joe has put me into the Toronto camp, so I'll be taking the home team in that one. I won't be betting it, that's for sure. All right, so game 3. This one's giving me gray hairs already. BC Lions at Montreal Alouettes. What do you say the line is on this one?
Montreal by 6.
Oh, good call. Montreal by 5. Um, I kind of like that. All right. I'm going to guess. that we bounce back. All right, here's a bounce back game. All right, for us, maybe a bit of a trap game last week. Let's just say that. Okay, well, this line seems to indicate that Davis Alexander is coming back. We're recording this on Monday night, so we don't have the injury reports on the early injury practice reports on anything except for the Winnipeg Calgary game. So don't know much about that, but again, this line seems to indicate that Davis Alexander is coming back because as bad as the Lions are playing, I can't imagine that the Alouettes with McLeod Bethel Thompson are going to be a touchdown favorite against anybody right now after that last game. So thinking Davis Alexander is back. The TSN crews kicked around the possibility that Nathan Rourke would be coming back for BC. He was in full gear this week on the sidelines for what that's worth. No intention of actually playing, but suiting up, I guess, means something out there. But on the other hand, again, like I feel these quarterbacks returning kind of has that offense out of sorts. To be honest, Nathan Rourke has looked ordinary this season. Anyway,
Yeah,
I
but for BC, that's an improvement on what they got going on right now.
wow. um,
And I don't want to
so-
be that way about it. I don't want to say that, you know, Jeremiah Mazzoli isn't getting it done anymore and probably is done, but like everything is screaming at me that yeah, we're done here. We need to move on to something else.
sure, sure. I mean, imagine if we get Bethel Thompson against Masoli this week. Jesus, I can't handle another one of these kind of games. Um, so yeah, I'm thinking both the starting quarterbacks return, and if that's the case, well, Montreal's going to put up a lot of points because wow, this BC defense can't stop anybody. And it's just again, we saw this at the end of last season as well. This defense is just giving up hemorrhaging points on there. So
Yeah.
I'd take
I,
Montreal. I'd
yeah,
take
I'm not I have no doubts about taking Montreal at all here. The only thing I'd like to see is if they are starting McLeod Bethel Thompson, remember to game plan for the run because BC has trouble
yes,
stopping that. And you have
yes,
some talent in that backfield. Use it.
of course, of course. I don't know why we threw out the game plan. Arlington had been having a nice season, and yet in this game he got 2 carries, whatever.
Uh huh.
So
My fantasy team noticed.
yeah, yeah, that was not the pick. The pick this week was AJ Ouellette, says 2020 hindsight. Um, right. Finally, we end up with a game that's going to tell us something about these teams. Ottawa Redblacks at Edmonton Elks. Wow. What is the line on this game? Okay, so the line on this game is Ottawa is a 2.5 point favorite.
I was gonna say two for Ottawa,
Yeah. Okay.
but I think they're wrong.
Yeah, me too. Me too. My feeling here is that, maybe it's just the numbers balancing out. But Edmonton, at least on the offense, has shown something this year. Edmonton has a nice running game.
And
Edmonton
they've
has some
shown
receivers out
and they've
there.
built from week 1 to week 2 to week 3. You're seeing progression.
Sure.
You're seeing if they're going to typecast Trey Ford as a pocket passer, he sure seemed to look the part minus the couple of scrambles where he tried to run 20 yards back behind and try to make the
Oh yeah.
hero throw.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but other than that, like they game planned for him in the pocket. He stayed in the pocket and he
Yep.
made the throws.
Hmm.
Whether his receivers were on point at any given point was another question, or if his backs were going to hold on to the ball. But he had a good game,
Hmm.
and Winnipeg's defense is nothing to shake. It, they're better than they were last year. They have a threat now on the other side of Willie Jefferson.
Hmm.
They got James Fodders there, and he's playing well. Willie's playing well too.
Hmm.
It's that's not an easy defense to put up points, and Edmonton could have easily put up 30 in that game.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't.
Oh,
I
wait, I
guess
gotta ask about
my
that
question right
one.
now is how many games would it take Ottawa to put up 30 points?
um, yeah, I feel like Ottawa's that it's the opposite of Toronto. You look at that Toronto roster, it looks good on paper. Ottawa, I mean, I feel like they've been playing with a no-name roster for years now. And again, like they get by on playing smart. They get by on, conservative game plan. But Edmonton is surprisingly high
Well,
flying
and then
this week.
Drew
So
Brown goes off like a firework once
right,
a month
right,
too, right?
right, right, right. Maybe this game indicates that Drew Brown is coming back. This line is saying that Drew Brown is coming back. Would you still go with Edmonton if Drew Brown was on the field?
I think so.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Per-
if Edmonton continues to play, if Edmonton plays the same game they played against Winnipeg,
mhm,
like the same thing, even with a couple of those disaster plays they had,
mhm,
I don't think Ottawa's got enough firepower to keep up.
mhm, mhm.
And
Yep.
Drew Brown, the first week back, maybe he's got everything going for him. Maybe it takes him a week to get back into
Mhm.
things, but I don't see any
Okay.
indication he is coming back. So I'm
Okay.
not going. Not making any sort of pick based off him being back until I know he's there.
Mhm. Well, the sports book has no confidence in in Edmonton for some reason. Again, the
Well,
eye
I
test.
mean, they're the only team that hasn't won a game yet,
Right.
but they've only played the three. So
Yeah. But they are dead last in point differential despite that. So they have been giving up a lot of points despite scoring a lot of points. Um,
yes,
so,
yes, they gave up 31 to BC with Nathan Rourke.
yeah.
The way the Nathan Rourke that is around right now instead of the 2022 version.
Hmm.
They gave up the 38 to Montreal, but I think we're finding out that there was a reason that Montreal made the change at quarterback. You know, even though I doubted that, clearly they know what they're talking about, and that's why they're there and I'm here. Uh, and then,
Well, Davis
but
Alexander was a question mark. Whatever they saw there in
I mean, they've
Montreal.
made a couple of moves in the past 3 or 4 years where I'm just like, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Mhm.
And so far, both of them have turned out to be like
Yeah,
perfect. So
yeah,
I need to
yeah.
start learning to let Montreal do what they're going to do and trust them
Mhm,
because they seem to know what they're doing.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I guess our offensive coordinator knows something about winning these games at quarterback. Uh, so, yeah, okay. Let's take Edmonton here. That's the number I really like is the over. To be honest, if I'm betting this game, I think this could be a scoreboard spinner, regardless of who starts at quarterback for Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm
okay,
going to need to see Drew Brown do the
uh
quarterback
huh,
before I'm even thinking about the over.
uh huh, okay. Okay. Well, the way Edmonton's been playing lately, they might make up most of that by themselves. I think in worst case scenario, we could see another 35-18 in this game. Hopefully, we'll see some more competitive games this week, although not sure. I'm not sure. What happened to No Lead is Safe, Joe? What happened to No Lead is Safe?
You need the starting quarterbacks and the offenses to be playing and being productive for that to happen.
Right.
You don't come back by making 105 and 120-yard returns. You
Hmm.
pull away doing that.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. Right. Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, or you just kill the game in the fourth quarter, just running the ball every play, right?
Yes, that helps too.
Right, right. Again, running game is important. Remember, we're talking a lot about quarterbacks today, but the teams that really impressed the most had killer running games this week. So, like to see more running next week. Good luck in fantasy, Joe. this one, this one will be quite the week to be picking your roster.
Yeah. Just okay. Who's the starting quarterback and which defense are they facing? Okay.
I'd suggest probably not Ottawa defense this week. Um, right. Okay. So let's put a bow on that. Week 4 in the books, going into week 5. My name's Oz Davis. This has been the Rouge, White, and Blue CFL podcast. For my co-host Joe Pritchard, we are out of here. Enjoy the week 5 games. Happy Canada Day once again. We'll talk to you next week.